Hey, we're going to talk about some executive orders that POTUS signed and executive statements, and they have to do with child abuse and human trafficking. So stick with me. I've got several other tabs to show you too, so hang in there. I'll be back in just a minute. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and I'm not sure if you watched the briefing that they had today, which I'm recording this on Wednesday. It was stellar. And what's impressed me about all of these briefings is that they're not the same people all the time. You're getting quite an array of different types of speakers in there. And today it was the military because they introduced this military operation that's going on against the drug cartels. This is General Mark Milley, and he is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and I want you to listen to what he has to say here.
As we know, that 70,000 Americans die on an average annual basis to drugs. That's unacceptable. We're at war with COVID-19, we're at war with terrorists, and we are at war with the drug cartels as well. This is the United States military. You will not penetrate this country. You will not get past Jump Street. You're not going to come in here and kill additional Americans. And we will marshal whatever assets are required to prevent your entry into this country to kill Americans. So right now the Navy has marshaled additional Gray Hull ships from both PACOM and EUCOM and for the Naval Fleet at Norfolk. And they are set sail already, and they are in the Caribbean right now.
So he lists all of the things that they're doing, and this is a pretty substantial fleet that they're working with in the Caribbean, which I think is kind of interesting because we know that there were a lot of islands there, including Little St. James, which was Epstein's island, and Haiti and other islands there that have been used for human trafficking for a long time. So is this really all about drugs? It could be. I mean, that's possible. But I tend to think maybe there's more going on as well. But of course, that is speculation, and I can't back it up with facts, and I like to deal with facts. So let's go on to some facts here, and that is that on January 31st, President Trump signed this executive order on combating human trafficking and online child exploitation in the United States. And he basically just says that it's a form of modern slavery and that it is going to have to stop. And so he sets it up. This is the policy right here, the policy statement. This is what his administration is standing for. And that it takes human trafficking in the United States, takes many forms and can involve exploitation of both adults and children for labor and sex. And then he talks about the internet here being a real issue. And I did a video on that because there was a hearing on dealing with the internet and these companies and the Section 230 that they have this like basically an immunity if they are going to be on there as platforms. And if they want to keep that immunity, then they're going to have to make sure that they're stopping any way possible these crimes of child sex trafficking or child exploitation of any type. And so that's what this whole policy is set down. And then Section 2 deals with what he's going to do to make that better. And it's, strengthening federal responsiveness to human trafficking. And he set it up to the Domestic Policy Council, and he wants to have one employee there positioned to committed to work on issues related to combating human trafficking occurring into, from, and within the United States, and to coordinate with personnel in other components of the Executive Office of the President. And so I looked up that particular organization, and it's the Domestic Policy Council. I went to the White House website, and this is what I came up with, but this is actually from an internship program. When I looked up the office itself, the council itself, it really didn't give me anything. It, said not found pretty much, except for this. This was the only thing I could find on it, which I thought was a little unusual. But then I went to Wikipedia and I found out that yes, this was a policy council was established on April 11th, which is a very good day. That's my birthday. And that was in 1985 by President Ronald Reagan. A lot of things happen on April 11th. I mean, wow, just, interesting stuff. When you look at the date in history, a lot of things happen on April 11th, and a lot of things have been happening just in the last couple of years on April 11th. There were several things that had happened the last couple of years. So anyway, this is what it started out, and right now here is the structure of it. You have Donald Trump, of course he's the chair, and then you have Joe Grogan, who is the director, and this guy who doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. And so then it has the regular attendees, which are pretty much the cabinet as I look at it. Looks like that. And then additional participants. So it doesn't have on here who is definitely that person, because it doesn't even have the Secretary of Homeland Security listed. So it's not up to date on this, but I don't know who is appointed to that position. And then you can go down here and you can look at previous presidents, because they have that as well. As always, I put the links down below so you can check them out and you can share them yourself. So you can read through that if you want. What really happened is that on March 31st, President Trump made a proclamation on the National Child Abuse Prevention Month. And he's done this each year. You can actually go to the White House website, click on the search, and then just put in National Child Abuse Prevention Month and the year, and it'll bring up, actually you don't have to put the year, it'll bring them up. And each one is different. I looked, I checked them. They are all different, but they all say basically the same thing, because it's a very important topic. Childhood should be filled with joy, hope, unconditional love, and acceptance. Tragically, however, far too many of our nation's young people spend this foundational time of their lives in fear, pain, and uncertainty, enduring abuse and neglect that threatens their health and well-being. During National Child Abuse Prevention Month, we condemn this horrific depravity and reaffirm our unwavering commitment to protecting our children and strengthening our families. And I think this is really good. And here's where he talks about he signed the executive order to coordinate the federal government's efforts to prosecute individuals who sexually exploit children online, protect and support victims of child exploitation, and provide prevention education to raise awareness and help lower the incidence of child exploitation. I also signed into law legislation to enhance our child welfare systems by supporting at-risk families through mental health and substance abuse treatment and programs to develop parenting skills. And then it says down here, look at this. With our international partners in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom, the United States developed the voluntary principles to counter online child sexual exploitation and abuse. Now, do those names sound familiar to you? Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom, and the U.S. There's 5 of them. Yeah, that's the 5 eyes right there. So kind of interesting that those are the ones that are signed up with this, that we're partnering with on this. And these are voluntary principles that are going to be applied, establish a baseline framework for companies that provide online services to deter use of the internet as a tool for sexually exploiting and abusing children. And that's why that particular piece of legislation that we talked about in a previous video was important too. It's another piece of the puzzle, because it will force those companies into taking more steps to prevent this on their platforms. And so I thought this was just, it's really a nice proclamation that he made here. And again, it's not something new, but it just seems interesting when you put it together with what's going on in the Caribbean now, with all of our military troops being sent there. So I don't know. I'm not going to say that that is possible, but, it's something that's being tossed around. And I came across this. This has a couple of people talking about it. And in their opinion, they thought there were children being taken care of in the hospitals that were more victims of abuse instead. Now, I'm telling you on this, I'm showing it to you because it's out there and I want you to be aware of what's out there. But as for any source on this, I have nothing. And it's nothing more than possibly just a couple people talking, and that's it. So I just want you to understand that I don't know that this holds any validity. I'm just letting you know what's out there. And I expect you to use your brains, and you can, and you make your own decisions. Okay, and then I thought maybe you'd be interested in this, because this is a list that was compiled on the Just the News site. Now, I've talked about this site a lot. You've heard me talk about it, because this is where John Solomon and Sarah Carter and a lot of really actual journalists have been going to, because it is actual news and it's reporting without a big bunch of the bias that we hear in the mainstream media. So this is a list of all the people, the big names, I should say, who have been tested positive for the virus or whatever the case is. So I just thought I'd leave this for you so you could go through it and see who all they are. And speaking of that, I also found this. Yeah, the New York Times obituaries on Twitter. Now, obviously, they're not going to have everybody on here, but I thought it was interesting to see, and I'm kind of wondering, it's since October 2008. I wonder if any of you know a way to find out, like, how many tweets they've done over time. Are they tweeting more now? Are there more deaths? That's what I think we need to look into. As most of you know, I asked you before in a previous video to do the film your hospital thing. Well, guess what? Candace Owens says, incredible. As soon as hashtag film your hospital began trending and Queens residents began saying the media was lying, the hospital at the, quote, epicenter is suddenly less busy. I have established connection with an admitted hashtag COVID-19 patient inside. Stay tuned. So I don't know what she's going to come up with, but it's interesting. And here's the article that goes with it. I'm not saying that there's anything, but it just seems kind of odd that all of a sudden, they have less patients. So I don't know. And again, I want to tell you that in my hometown hospital, the ICU beds are, in the center of the hospital. So you're not going to have a lot of activity outside. If you're just sitting out there and you're watching what goes on, or even in the ER, you're not going to see the real activity that goes on if these people are bad enough that they have to be in the ICU. So I'm just saying that, but I do think it's kind of strange that just suddenly it seemed like out of the blue, this article came out and now they're receiving fewer patients. Just thought I'd let you see that. And speaking of kind of odd things, now I can't play this one because it's 27 seconds long and copyright laws just won't allow me to do the whole thing for fair use. I don't want to do that to this person. So take the link and watch it. But basically he asks Siri what the deal is with the virus. And she has an interesting answer. So I will leave the link down below. Again, I'm sorry I can't play it. It's not fair use. When it's 27 seconds long and you use the whole thing, that's not fair use. And I don't want to do that. So I will leave the link down below and you can watch it yourself. I think it's really interesting. Yeah, Siri talks about Event 201 too. So just odd. And speaking of odd things, well, Maxine Waters can kind of fit that bill by herself, but this was a tweet she put out, and it was to Mark Dice. I mean, he's one of them listed, in Ohio Women for Trump, and I don't know who the other person is. It's okay, so it had that. Well, when I tried to take the link to it, it says the tweet doesn't exist, so she must have deleted it, but what? What was this? But then again, who knows what goes on in Maxine's mind? I don't know. So anyway, then of course, Bloomberg came out with this revelation. China concealed extent of virus outbreak. Well, duh. Is anyone surprised about this? It's April 1st. I think it's an April Fool's joke because everybody already knew this, right? I mean, everybody knows that China wasn't telling us the truth, or at least those of us who aren't gullible knew it. We knew. And in fact, guess what? Yeah, the Epoch Times here. The Epoch Times, by the way, if you don't have a subscription to this, get one. It's really good. And for like $16 a month, it's well worth it. So You can read some of them on your own, and they have unlocked all of the COVID-19 articles that they're writing. So anything on that, if you just set up an account, which means you put in your email address, then it'll allow you to have unlimited access, and that's all of the Chinese Communist Party virus coverage. That's what they're focused on, and they do an excellent job here on covering the different aspects of it, because China's kind of their baby. They focus a lot on China because one of the people who started this outlet was a Chinese citizen until they came to the United States. So they do have good insight on things that are going on in China. And so, yeah, they posted this as well, and to kind of echo it. But if you've been reading them all along, you know they already knew about it and they've been doing stuff. Check this out. This was an article from March 22nd that I thought was really cool, and I was going to share it with you, and I just kind of had too many things to do and skipped over it. But 21 million fewer cell phone users in China may suggest a high CCP virus death toll. Because evidently in China, they all have to have cell phones because that's how they're monitored. That's how they keep track of their citizen points, or whatever they call them. So if they do bad things, they get bad points against them. Or if they do good things, they get good points. And so if there are really 21 million fewer cell phone users, something's up. That's a huge number. And if all of them have to have a cell phone, there's something suspicious about it. And if you go through here and you read this, it'll describe why that is a possible clue to just how bad it was in China. So I hope that's not what we're talking about over here. And that is the fear that I have, that if it was really 21 million people who lost their lives over there, then that could bode badly for us, and I hope that's not what it's going to be. We've been doing a lot of things to mitigate the issue. And see, in China, they probably were not allowed not to go to work. They probably had to continue going to work, no matter if they were sick or not. So, that's just kind of how the Chinese regime worked. So the last thing I want to end with is this right here, this tweet by the U.S. Navy, that yes, the USNS Mercy is open for business. A true testament of the teamwork between Mercy, the Navy, the state of California, the county of Los Angeles, and the city and port of L.A. So keep your eye on what's going on there. And here's an article if you want to read that for it. But here's some pictures. Now, again, when we're seeing pictures like this, it's good to keep an eye on them. Someone said this didn't look like the type of antibiotic drip. I don't know. It looked like something more that they would be giving to somebody who was suffering from maybe starvation or something like that, which would fit in with the abused persons, the human trafficking victims being freed. But again, we've got to be really careful about that. I know what the speculation is out there, but let's be careful about how we say it to other people. I mean, it's okay to speculate, but let's make sure that people know that's a speculation. We can't say definitively what's happening, and we're not going to be able to say that until it's over. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying that we have to be careful because we don't have absolute evidence on that. We have speculation. And so I know nothing about bags like this. Usually the ones I've seen have been clear, but that doesn't mean anything. So I don't know. Maybe somebody who is a medical person knows more about that. So that's just some pictures that they put out. I would like to believe that the human trafficking victims, both adults and children, are being freed. I want to believe that's true, but I can't let what I want to be true to influence what I know to be true. So I have to be really careful about that. And while, yes, I want it to be true, if there's no evidence, and at this point we really don't have evidence, but we do have some things that kind of point in that direction, like this great big military thing going on in the Caribbean right now. I think that is huge. But I'm not going to say definitively that it is freeing human trafficking victims. I'm going to say that it's just a possible thing. I know what we all want to think is happening, but let's make sure that we base things on facts. And so right now, we just don't have the facts. If this is really what's happening, it'll come out, and there will be facts, and everybody's going to see the facts. That's what I've got for you on this one. I just wanted to share all these things with you and let you know different things that are going on, different sources, and I'll put all the links down below. You can read them at your will and see which ones interest you the most and share them, let people know what's going on. So that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.